Hello, welcome back to the Zen 23 podcast with me, Gerard Evans, and today my very special guest indeed, Karolyn Mahony. I should declare an interest here because I've known Karolyn for many years. I should say hello actually first, shouldn't I? Really?
Hi, Gerard. Nice to
Hi.
see you.
Hi. Yeah. So I should declare an interest in that. I've known you for many years, but also I've talked to quite a lot of therapists and complementary therapists. I mean, for the podcast rather than in my private life. But this is you are the actually only person who I'm actually a client of, and so that's kind of quite unusual. Well, it's unique in this particular context, I guess. And I think you're absolutely fantastic at what you do. So I really wanted to talk to you, and I'm really glad that we've finally got this together to have a chat. So,
Thank you very much.
So I know you're really welcome. Every word meant. Yeah. So if you want to start off, I always start off by asking people to talk about their upbringing, but perhaps with a sort of half an eye on what kind of aspects of growing up might have made you become the person you are today, really. So I know a bit of this anyway, but obviously I'll leave it to you to sort of tell the people who might be watching.
Okay, well, I grew up in Southeast London. I've got an older brother and a sister. I'm the youngest. My family, there was quite a few insecurities, ups and downs, but I was quite, I was always sort of outside and just sort of playing in nature, and just sort of like in my own way, sort of breezing through everything. And also my family were quite musical, like my brother's a drummer and my granddad played the violin and my dad played the guitar and he sang, and so did my mum. So there was a lot of times when the family came around at weekends and they'd sing. I come from an Irish background, so there was a lot of Irish music, which I absolutely loved. Yeah, that's sort of, well, without going too much into my childhood, because later on I sort of worked through some of the things that happened when I was younger. But when I was 20, my dad was diagnosed with cancer and he only had 6 weeks before he died, and my whole life sort of literally got turned upside down. And then I ended up having to move out, and I didn't really have anywhere to go. And that's when my life took a completely different turn, because my brother sort of shared a house with some other guys, and I ended up moving in. With them, and I didn't expect it, but it was just the way my life went. Really, I ended up living in Deptford, and I was a postwoman. I've done many different jobs. I'll tell you about a few, but I was a postwoman, and that time it was like the early 90s. And it was quite unusual for a woman to be a postwoman, and I would be there and there'd be like 25 other guys and just me. When I used to knock at people's doors, they were always quite surprised. But one of the guys there, he'd sort of dabbled a little bit in Shiatsu. He wasn't a therapist, but someone had given him a treatment, and he said, would you like a treatment? And I said, yeah. Okay, I've never done anything like that before. For people who don't know, Shiatsu is Japanese therapy, and it's traditionally done on a futon on the floor. Anyway, he gave me a treatment, and I just thought, oh my God, that is absolutely amazing. There was just something about it that just made me, I just wanted to do it, really. And I love the aspect of human touch. I find that really natural. I think that's very healing in itself. So I ended up doing a short course and then applied to do a longer course, like a three-year course. And I went to, it was lovely actually. It was, they were doing it in a convent then in Marylebone. And when I walked in and I sat down, and one of the teachers came over and he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, would you just like to watch, or just like to, would you like to join in? And I said, oh no, I'll watch for now. But I just thought that this is for me. So I ended up doing this course of Shiatsu while I was a postwoman. And it was really handy actually, because being a postwoman, you could just like walk along, get loads and loads of exercise, but I could just go over all the things that I'd learned during the last lesson. And also, I didn't really go to school very much, but this, I had to do anatomy and physiology and pathology, and I worked so hard at it because I absolutely loved it. It was just the most natural thing in the world to me, that I ended up coming top in everything.
Brilliant.
And then, yeah, so I did that for a little while, and then I don't know what happened actually, because I absolutely loved it. And then my life sort of took a different turn, really. I think I was supposed to go through all the other things to bring me back to this point.
Did it change you a lot then when you got into Shiatsu? Because um, it sounds like it had a big effect on you. Did that kind of change your personality, or did it change what you thought about stuff?
I think it changed a lot about what I thought about myself, what I understood. I knew that I really like the human touch. I really like to help and heal people. And before a treatment, I'd noticed that people were quite closed, and then afterwards they'd just be completely open and relaxed and trusting, and it was just a lovely thing to do.
You want to tell us a little bit about Shiatsu then, because I'd imagine a fair few people wouldn't know what it's all about. It's Japanese massage therapies, yeah.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah, so what happens in a shiatsu is traditionally done on a futon on the floor, fully clothed, very comfortable. And then what you'll do is you'll make a diagnosis from the hara, just like this, the stomach area. And pretty much like, well, like acupuncture points, basically, we've got meridians that run through our system, and they're like, through our body, they're like energy pathways, like rivers running through our body. And then there's 12 of those, and then areas in it, like if you've got, say, if something happens to you, or a shock, or an upset, and you like that, and something gets stuck, or just something happens to you along the way, you can get, or an illness, or energy can build up and then it can cause an illness. So what we do is we make a diagnosis from the stomach by using the hara, by using our hands. And then we'll sort of feel the imbalances in the meridians, because they're all connected via that hara area. And then we'll see which two meridians are out of balance. Now, for instance, it's not like your lung meridian might be out of balance, but it's not just a physical thing. It could be that you've got colds or due to asthma, but also it could be because you've got a lot of sadness in your life, melancholy, and you sigh a lot, or your head can be that your heavy head, or if it's an imbalance in your stomach area, it could be like you worry, you've got a tendency to worry, and you've got pains in your shoulder. And then when you find out which two meridians balance each other up, then what you do is you work on the energy lines throughout the whole body, using your hands, your thumbs, your elbows, your knees, and balance, do stretches and rotations, and you just balance up the body, really, in your energy system.
So you did a 3-year course in it, you say, yeah?
It was 3 years, because we had to go sort of once a week. We had to go there to the college, and then we had to do personal studies practices, and then we had to do the anatomy and physiology and pathology. Then we had to do a clinic. On the last year, you'd be part of the clinic, as if you were running your own clinic, really. And I absolutely loved it. I just felt, and I'm quite a shy person in a group, but I found myself when I was in there, it just felt so natural. I remember I had a really bad toothache one day, and my teacher said, right, she held a point on my arm, and then she held the point where my tooth, where I had the toothache, and then all of that, the energy dispersed, and she cleared it. And I just found that absolutely fascinating. And then later on, I was the person who, after I qualified, I was the person who could do that. So it just, yeah, it was very natural for me to do that.
In terms of being shy, well, I'm just trying to put myself in your shoes here. And if I were going to this college place for the first time, I'd be sort of a bit nervous about expecting a lot of kind of yummy mummies who call everybody darling and so on. Were you nervous of that, and was it like that?
To be honest, I actually didn't think about that. But when I got there, it was, especially when I did that, because that was in the 90s, the mid 90s. And not, I mean, there's a lot of people who haven't heard of Shiatsu now, let alone then. So there was quite a lot of professional people actually. This is why when I came sort of top in all the studies, I was thinking, yeah, you've done really well, because I tried. But yeah, it was just a different environment, because I think we all the people there just had a bit of different mindset really. They probably thought about helping and healing people too. They're quite sort of gentle in their way.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I know what you mean. When I did my mindfulness teacher training, I was kind of nervous about what the other people would be like. And it was all women apart from me, so that was a bit odd in the first place, although actually it's quite nice. But yeah, when you sort of get talking to people, I think, and you've all got this kind of shared thing in common, it becomes a lot more
Yeah.
easy than you perhaps expect, I guess.
Yeah, but also in those type of environments, I think that it's, I don't know, it's just a lot more comfortable. It's a lot more, the environment is quite a lot more chilled out. I think that probably once you get over, if you have to do the awkward bit where you go, hi, my name is Karolyn and I like that, and get over that bit. But it's generally, I think it's those sort of things. Yeah, they are quite chilled really.
Yeah.
And my passion for it as well, because it just felt like putting a glove on for me, and it still is. And yeah, I've started to do that again now. And I just find it, yeah, the most natural thing in the world, really.
Mm.
And I'm probably going to do some voluntary work in a hospital quite shortly, which I'm really pleased about, because the Shiatsu Society said they, for the staff that are quite stressed out, would you like to do some voluntary work? So I'm in the process of just filling out the application for that, which that's very rewarding as well.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic, and what a deserving bunch of people, really, after the last few years in particular.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll be very happy to do that. Yeah. So after that, I actually didn't end up pursuing it, the shiatsu. And like I said, I'm not quite sure why, but anyway, I ended up I was an estate agent for a while. I didn't really
Yeah.
like that very much.
Did I
Yeah.
know that? I'm not sure I knew that.
I don't think you did. I've done so many jobs, but oh God, I didn't like sort of lying to people or covering something up when I knew it cost a lot of money. So that definitely wasn't for me. Then I became a travel agent, which was amazing. It was amazing. It was the first teletext one of the first teletext travel agents, but you could they gave you educationals with some of the like Kuoni, the top travel agents. And now I ended up sort of really traveling the world a lot. So, so in one way, I'm glad that I didn't go that route, because I did lots of other things in between. I went on safari, Dubai, Sri Lanka, I've seen some really, really beautiful places, which has enriched me, because I like traveling anyway, and it did it for very cheaply, which was absolutely great.
Well, yeah, yeah. I definitely got a tinge of jealousy here in that. Actually, I've never
Oh,
travelled as much as I want to, really, and I still got time. I hope, fingers crossed. But yeah, did that kind of, does that inform this story, or was that just like a holiday? And what I mean is, when you go to sort of somewhere like Sri Lanka, do you pick up stuff like from the different kind of belief systems and all that sort of thing, or were you just enjoying yourself?
Oh, just to be honest, everything went by quite quickly. You know, you'd have a week there, and then you'd have to. Oh, it's terrible. They give you hosted meals with the managers, and oh, it's terrible. Yeah, but you'd have to take notes. And then I was quite partyish as well. So I did used to, yeah, sort of wake up next day with a hangover with when it's like really hot, and take notes. No, not really, but I've been to some temples, and that was really nice.
Mm, mm. So how long did you do that for?
I did it for about 3 years, but in the end, it just got a bit more regimental, and you were sitting there with headphones on, and can I help you? Can I help you? And you'd have to meet targets, and there again, I was best at selling the long haul of a holiday, a really nice holiday. I didn't want to sell a holiday to someone that I thought they'd be disappointed at the end of it, like lying and saying it was sunny or whatever. So it was time to sort of move on, really. Then I got into accounts. And I don't know why I did that. I just ended up falling into that. So I was a finance assistant for many years, and I thought I really liked it. And every time I went to do the studies to sort of back it up, my heart wasn't really in it. And then what happened was I had a few problems at work, and it was making me very sad. I was crying quite a lot. A lot of things came out. I also discovered at that point, which I never realised before, that I had social anxiety. Because I'm one of these people that can literally walk down the road and say hi, talk to everyone. I've always had loads of friends, no problem, parties. But I just realised that when everybody was sort of looking at me at the same time, it just brought all sorts of anxieties that I've been covering up for many years. So I ended up leaving that job, and which was a good idea. But it got to a point, I think, in life, if you don't move on, life pushes you, and it sort of it just pushes you the way. And you might go to great depths before you change, but life steers you that way because that's the path you're supposed to take. So then I thought, right, okay, I haven't got a job. What am I going to do? And I thought, this is a couple of years ago, and I thought, well, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back and do the Shiatsu, because I absolutely loved it. So I retook I just studied, just recapped really, because once you've learned, you sort of know it. And then I retook an exam again by just doing a Shiatsu to someone, a teacher, and then I passed that. And then I decided to get into EFT. Well, to be honest, EFT I'd sort of dabbled in over the years. I've had EFT done on myself.
Was that how you discovered it, when you had it done on yourself?
Yeah, there was an ad in a paper for something, and at the time I was going through one of those little, those emotional problems, and I saw it, and I just thought, right, I'll do that. I didn't know what it was. I don't even know if it was described as EFT. And then sort of, I found it really interesting because EFT, which is emotional freedom techniques.
We should probably explain that, actually.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, emotional freedom techniques, which is also known as tapping, which is a lot in the media now. And it's growing sort of all the time. I think in like South Africa, it's recognised now, like as the hospitals can say, or the doctors can say, right, you could do some EFT. So EFT. So what that is, it's pretty much, it works. We're talking about the meridians earlier, from the acupuncture points and the meridians for Shiatsu. Well, EFT works on pretty much similar way, but what you do is, there again, I'll describe if you just get an upset shock, and it gets stuck in a part of your body, and then basically, and it brings up a thought pattern. Like, it might have been you'd had a really bad breakup, or something had happened to you in your life, a trauma when you were younger, and every time you think about it, it sends a signal to the fear part in your brain. It's called the amygdala, but And every time you think about it, and if you don't sort of deal with it, it just gets worse and worse. Every time you think about it, you can get real anxious and in a panic, and it doesn't go away. But what EFT does is you'll try and work out what is causing you to feel anxious, upset, or what's happened. And then you say, well, how do you feel, out of a scale of 10 to 0, 10 being the worst you can feel, and 0 being, no, I'm absolutely fine about that. And you'll ask them, they might say a 10. And then what you'll do is you'll sort of, while they're thinking about that, it's the feeling that's stuck in their body. You'll talk to them, and you'll ask them to follow you and tap on the points, which are the meridian points. So the energy lines in your body. But also, while you're talking about the trauma or upset that you had, and it's connecting to that fear part in your brain, the amygdala, because you're talking about it and tapping, what it's doing, it's weakening that signal. So you can sort of you can do a few rounds of tapping, and you can say, well, how do you feel on the scale of 10 to 0, 10 being the worst you could feel, 0 being absolutely okay. And then hopefully bring those numbers down to a 0, or there might be other layers that you have to work on. Yeah, but you can't erase, no, we can't erase memories. And but what we can do is, if it's something that's quite traumatic to you and it comes into your brain while you've tapped for a while and it weakens the signal, you just don't have that attachment anymore. So you won't feel so scared or anxious when you think about it. It's quite revolutionary, really.
Totally revolutionary. And this,
Yeah.
I should point out, when I say I'm a client of yours, I am an EFT client of yours, and it's absolutely profound, completely profoundly. And you're so good at it. You're so good at picking up the sort of right things to pick up on and all that kind of stuff. And I've found it really life changing, for which I have thanked you before, but I'll thank you again.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, but this isn't about me, of course. So you got into EFT, and so you've learned that as well. You're very much one for like doing things in the kind of qualifications route, aren't you? So you've done.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I'm also a qualified medium, but it's something that I've never really used, because although I've got quite a lot of intuition, which is probably why the EFT works quite well, because I'm just quite aware, and I just sort of pick up on quite a lot of things. So I don't really use the mediumship, but just my intuition helps me with the work that I do. I've done distance healing for Shiatsu, which is quite amazing.
How does that work then?
Well, what you do is you use a pillow as a surrogate, and then you can think about the person, and then what you'll do is you'll make a diagnosis on the pillow or something that's at the surface, and then you'll do a body scan, and then you'll try and work out the imbalances. It's pretty incredible, and I know it seems unbelievable, but I've worked using it, and I've picked up things on people.
Well, you've done it with me. Yeah.
I did it with you, yeah, and things I wouldn't know because you didn't tell me. So it just goes to show that obviously the energy's out there. It's not just localized to sort of here. So I've done that. I've also Reiki. I've actually completed level 2, but I've never actually quite finished my case studies, only because I just ended up going on a slightly different path. I normally finish things, but I do combine that with my Shiatsu when I do the Shiatsu, and that really helps.
So what's Reiki?
Reiki, what you do is you sort of do a full body scan on somebody, and then you sort of hold different areas just above, or you can touch their head actually, or just in front of it, and then you'll sort of stay there for a few minutes, like 3 or 4 minutes, and then you'll balance up the energy. And also, if you find something that's not quite, when you feel a heaviness, you know that there's a real imbalance there. So what you can do is, it's like sort of psychic surgery, they call it. You can actually move that energy and that heaviness, and then just move it away, just sort of clear it, just balance up the whole body.
I've had something very similar, or perhaps just that, actually done on me as part of a teacher training course once in something. And I was pretty kind of, I don't think cynical is the right word, but I wasn't convinced, certainly. And so I had to lie down on this table while 6 people surrounded me and did their sort of their hocus pocus. And I just thought, at this point, this was quite near the end of the day, and I just thought, like, you know what, I'm quite tired. I'll just sort of relax and just sort of, you know, that's fine. Because we all like to take turns, so it was just my turn. And so I said, I'll just sort of relax and just sort of, you know, have a bit of a rest, basically, and see what happens. I wasn't close to it, but I certainly wasn't in the convinced camp either. And then it was just, what happened next just completely took me by surprise, and I could feel stuff in my body shifting about. And well, I don't want to say, I don't want to make this about me, but I in the end I started crying.
Okay,
And I got off that table a different person to the one that had got on. Really, it's quite remarkable. But it's experiential, isn't it? You know, it's not something that you can. It's not something you can necessarily prove in a laboratory, I suppose.
No, but I worked on somebody, and they didn't know that I was doing I did a combination of EFT, a little bit of CBT. We'll talk about that in a minute. And Shiatsu. And at the end of the treatment, I used the Reiki, because I knew there was that it needed healing, basically. And then afterwards, when we finished, I didn't make a sort of big thing about that. And they said, I really noticed that. I really felt that. So it's quite incredible. And we've just got, we're capable of doing so much, and healing and distance healing, but we just haven't discovered it yet. We're just discovering it little by little. And there's a lot, if you're not open to it, then it's not going to work, probably.
Does it make you nervous if people are sort of cynical about it? Does it bother you?
I wouldn't say it bothers me, but if I was to do a treatment, you know, I hope that it works for them. If they're really cynical, they could actually put up a resistance to it as well, which would probably, if they say no, it's not going to work, it's not going to work. But I like to think that the treatment, they'll come out of it thinking, that worked.
Well, if they're really cynical, they're probably not going to be there in the first place, I guess. So.
No, they've got to be open, haven't they, in the first place to do it?
Yeah. So you would say you kind of, now you've got these kind of various skills that you sort of have the freedom or ability to combine them, essentially, when you're doing stuff. And you mentioned CBT. It's all acronyms, isn't it? In this game? So what do you want to tell people what CBT is, including me?
Well, it's I'm going to speak in the most basic form, but it's just like changing your perceptions, or the way you think. No two people see the world in the same way, and a lot of the things that happen to us when we're younger, we might not be aware of it, but when new situations come up, you'll automatically react to the way that you have done in the past. So if it's quite a negative way that you're reacting to a situation, then you can, if you can change it around, basically. And I've done it myself. I've worked on myself, and it's been quite incredible, actually. So if a situation, if something like comes, a problem comes in, And first of all, you'll react subconsciously, because that's what you've done. You're living subconsciously most of the time, not living in the conscious moment. But when you just manage to, and it's a split second that happens for the thought and the automatic reaction. But when the thought actually comes in, if for that split second you just stand back and then you can just look at it and you can analyze that thought as the person you are today, not as the person you have been all of those years, the way you've been reacting towards it, then you can just change, and your life can be, your life can become so much easier, because you're never going to be the person you were. I mean, you might have acted like that, reacted from a child to a situation or as a teenager, but all of your life experiences now, you're a completely different person, and you can react to different emotional situations as the person you are now.
And it stands for what?
CBT. Oh, I can't think right now.
Is it
Cognitive behavioral therapy, of course it
right?
does.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
cognitive behavior. Yeah, automatic responses.
So it's how you behave. Cognitive is kind of recognizing stuff, the same kind
Yeah,
of
that's
root
right.
word or whatever.
Patterns. Yeah, and patterns.
So you recognize the situation, and that's how you
Yeah,
behave from your
yeah,
experience of recognizing that before.
yeah. Or you can sort of look at a situation, and or something's going on in your life, and then you can step back and you could say, how would someone else see it? So you can almost just take yourself out of that situation to be able to look at it without an emotional attachment, so you can just see it clearly rather than just get mixed up with a complete muddle of emotions.
Yeah, I do that in business sometimes. Actually, I think particularly if something's a bit stressful, I just think Richard Branson wouldn't get stressed by this. This really
Yeah.
helps.
But I mean, like anything, you can give advice to somebody else, can't you, when you can see it absolutely so clearly most of the time. But with yourself, it's a bit different, but you can step out of the situation to look at it.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think this is something. This is why I am your client, as opposed to just talking to you on a podcast like I've done with quite a lot of other people,
Yeah.
and is because you are, to me, you're in sort of presence and not performance, whereas a lot of coaches and therapists and so on. And this is only it's an understandable human thing. I think are often in performance mode of I've got to be the expert and all this sort of thing. Whereas I think when you become a genuine expert like you, it just comes over much more natural. I really need to point out, I'm not saying anybody I've interviewed isn't genuine, but I just think you've got a real handle on this that is quite unique. That it's all about sharing information and kind of co-piloting on the journey rather than assuming a position of expertise, which is ultimately born of fear, to sort of
Yeah.
the I am the expert thing. I think really, if proper experts don't come over like experts, that's what I'm trying to say again.
Well, I do actually genuinely care, and it just makes me feel so good that if I can sort of change somebody or help someone along the way, I just feel so good. So yes, while I'm doing a session of whatever, EFT, Shiatsu, combination of CBT, I'm there because I want to make it. That's why I do what I do. I want to make it work, and also because, like, I'm going back to when I said that I had the social anxiety. I've done so much work on myself as well. So if I see anybody that is and the insecurities I've had as a child, I mean, if I see anybody going through hard times, I want to help them. I want to just make their lives a little bit better. With the social anxiety, I would never be able to do what I'm doing now if that had been like a few years ago.
If you hadn't sorted it out, you mean?
Yeah. And I've had CBT, and EFT. So yeah, I've been through a lot of work on myself, which is great. Yeah, great.
How does CBT work then? Because I've never had that. I don't really know much about it either. I mean, if I came to you for a CBT session or whatever, what happens?
It depends what it's for, but for instance, with the social anxiety, it's because I thought I built every time I was avoiding a situation, I was actually making it worse, because I was making that fear. It's almost like, right, because I'll go into that situation, then I'll run away, and my body will say, oh, that's good that you've run away because you've saved yourself. But not really, because I'm making that fear grow bigger and bigger and bigger. So what you do is you just expose yourself really gently each time to certain situations that is going to cause you fear, and then you realize, oh, it wasn't that bad. No, it wasn't that bad. It's just sort of like I said about stepping back and being able to look at it, rather the situation from different perspectives, rather than being completely engrossed in it all.
How do you do that? How do you move from where you are right now via CBT to being able to do that?
You obviously, there's a lot of talking, and then you try and get a person to look at things from a different perspective, because they're only seeing it from their own cognitive bias, their patterns, their way of thinking, which has probably been ingrained in years and years and years.
Oh yeah.
So you just get them to sort of, there's exercises that they do, and like thought patterns. Someone might have said, like years ago, someone might have said to someone, oh, or you're not good at this, you can't do this. And all of that is ingrained. And then slowly you get people to work on themselves, like doing little bit by little bit, and say, how did you do? Oh, yeah, I did that. I feel good. And it's just about just starting to change their thought patterns around.
Okay. Yeah. So you moved, didn't you, from Herne Hill to Rochester? You've lived other places actually, haven't you?
I did move. I lived in Bickley for about 20 years, and although it was very pretty, I'm happy to be in Rochester. I wanted to just say a bit about that actually, because another course that I've done, a short course, is the Law of Attraction. And I did want to mention this because something sprang to mind when I was a child, that I must have been about like 6 or something, and there was a road just around the corner from where we lived, and every single time I walked down that road, I'd fall over, and I called it fall down road in my head, because I just fell over. No reason why. And then sort of doing the law of attraction and studying that later, it just made me understand that the reason why I fell over is because I thought I would. There was no other reason. Okay, I might have tripped once, but not continuously, not every single time. But I had that thought pattern in my head, and so the law of attraction is, I wanted to live near water. In fact, as you know, I wanted to live in Brighton for many, many, many years, and I always said, "Oh, I'd like to move to Brighton. I'd like to move to Brighton," but it didn't ever happen. But it was always in the back of my mind. And I'm really fortunate enough, finally, I live beside the river in Rochester, and I'm sure that was years and years of me saying, having a very clear intention of what I wanted. That's what I wanted to do. Obviously, being lucky enough to move here, but that is, your intention can really help you achieve what you want to achieve, if you believe it's reality.
Yeah, well, everything starts with an idea, doesn't it? Everything starts with a vision, really.
Yeah, absolutely. There's another thing, and it's a very simple way to describe it, but if you've got a jam jar or something, and you go to open it and you just think, oh God, I can't open it, and you just really focus on it with your mind, and you seem to have that little bit of extra strength.
Absolutely, yeah. Like when the sort of cliche of when a child's trapped under a car and suddenly someone is able to lift the car, and so on.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah. So how long have you been in Rochester now? It's probably
about a year and a year and a half, coming up for a year and a half.
right.
Yeah, I really like it. It's a real, It's got lots of it's got a real community feel, and we just had the Sweeps Festival at the weekend. Lots of music, yeah, lots of drinking, lots of music, lots of dancing, and lots of fun. And it's very much real here. That's why I like it. I didn't quite feel that, although Bickley was pretty. I didn't quite feel like that there. I like being part of a community, and I like the traditions as well.
What's it like being away from London? This is something we both share in the sense that we have both moved away from the big city, and we live somewhere more, well, rural. I don't know if rural is the right word, but certainly away from all that. Has that been like quite different for you?
Oh, it's great for me. Because I'm quite sensitive and aware person, I used to go into I've never really liked shopping very much, but I used to go into shopping centres or something, and I could only be in a little while. And I've got to get out. I can just feel it. It's chaos and everybody moving around, and it's just too much. And here it is still quite a lot of people, but it's just more chilled and less busy, and I really, really like it. And if I didn't like going out so much, because I still like going out, then I probably would move further into the country. I'd like to have llamas and alpacas, and that's what I'd like to have. Yeah, maybe I should do my Law of Attraction with that one and see what happens.
Well, yeah. Who knows? Who knows? So, do you think you're going to stay in Rochester then? Is this it now?
Um, for now, yeah, certainly for now. I'm quite settled, and I've sort of joined a little local like a woman's workout with a difference, it's called, and I've done some Tai Chi up by the castle, and I've been on some walks locally, and just the community. I've got my neighbours. There's an elderly guy across the road, and I've made him dinner a few times, and I've walked another person's dog, and I just really like it. So, yeah, definitely for now. Yeah, I'm happy here.
You've come a long way, haven't you? In various.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Especially when I first moved into the house sharing and everything, which did change my life, as I said, with the Shiatsu. Because if I hadn't have had that Shiatsu, I wouldn't have gone on to do the things that I'm doing now. Or maybe I would, I'm not sure. But come on, quite a long way. And realizing that the spiritual part is definitely it's definitely what I'm supposed to do, because it's what I enjoy doing most, and it's really good for me to be able to combine all of the different things into one.
Do you think you were always spiritual, and it was just asleep?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, and I think that part of me is I remember being sort of playing out in the back garden. I was always a bit with the sort of nature and everything. I was always, like flowers, and probably notice clouds, and I like trees moving, and just really, really natural things I like.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. Yeah, I think it's really interesting. One thing we didn't touch on is the medium thing, which I'm quite fascinated on your take, because I've talked about this with Gail Hart, who I think you know Gail. Do you know Gail?
I know of Gail. I don't really know Gail.
Yeah, so Gail's a sort of professional psychic and all that kind of stuff. So that's what she does, etc. Um, and that's all kind of in her stride. But for you, to sort of study it in a course and so on, this kind of fascinates me, because I find that quite unnerving, all that kind of mediumship idea, yeah, quite scary actually. When you start thinking about dead people and stuff like that,
If I saw a ghost, I'd run a mile. I often think that. I don't know. I mean, I do believe, everyone's got different beliefs. I believe that our souls move on. I do. Yeah, I believe that you get signs of like feathers and things, or sparrows. That's happened. Robins, sorry, that's happened quite a few times. And I think, because I went for a reading myself, and then she said to me, "Oh, you should be a medium. You can do it." And then I just thought, you know what, I'm going to try. So, well, I'm going to go to the course. So I mean, a lot of it is learning how to deal if there was a bad spirit, how to open up, a little bit about crystals. There was a lot of formalities that the course, and then what you need to, oh, that's what we do actually. We open up. When you say you open up, is you just imagine like a swirling light, and it's sort of like there's an opening from your head, and it just spreads out over, and there you can connect yourself to the energy and things around you. And then what we do is like, then we sort of like lie down, and then all sort of see what we can get for each other. And although I did get a few things, it wasn't consistent enough for me to feel comfortable. Well, now it's not. Well, I don't know if that will change in the future, but it wasn't consistent enough for me to think, oh yeah, I can do a read. But I do sort of, I have intuitions about things quite often that do come true, but it's not quite the same as giving somebody a read. So yes, I haven't actually pursued it. Like once when I was in Palma, I was going, my brother lives in Mallorca, and we'd said goodbye. His coach driver there, we said goodbye, and we'd gone off. I was with my now husband, and it was quite a few hours. So I'd said goodbye, and I wasn't going to see Bill again because I was going back home. And then when we got back, because we left our luggage at the train station, I said, we're picking up the luggage, and I said, I've got to go downstairs. My brother's downstairs. And I had such a strong instinct that he was downstairs. So, and I knew I had to move quickly. So I just like went downstairs, and there he was. And I'd already said goodbye. I didn't think I was going to see him again. And he said, oh, I'm just about to sort of pull away, And I just said, I knew you were here. I just want to say goodbye again. And it's just like, it's things like that happen quite often to me.
It's really interesting, that kind of glimpse of our potential, perhaps,
Yeah, absolutely. And I still like now, the ladies that I went on because there were ladies, I went on the group with, we meet up every Tuesday, and we just open up and see what we can get, because I keep sort of dipping. I really like it because I really like them, but I just dip into it and see. And it was quite interesting last night. I got a few things as well. So if I don't see anything, I mean, some people see things in their mind, but just words might just come to me. So I'll continue doing that, and we'll because I like it, and we'll see what happens. But for now, I'm quite happy with all of the other things that I do.
And all of the other things you do at riversidehealing.co.uk, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you want to tell people a little bit about that, about how they could get in touch if they wanted to sort of, talk to you and so on?
Yeah, well, I do. I've got a treatment room downstairs, and but I am based in Rochester, Medway, which I can do Shiatsu or a combination of all of the different treatments, or I can do CBT, EFT. I can do that online, or distance healing if somebody would be interested in that. Yeah, my website is riversidehealing.co.uk, and my email address is riverside.shiatsu@gmail.com.
Yeah, that's what's it. And what you've done for me has been absolutely profound, and I couldn't recommend you enough, quite frankly. So I just wanted to sort of throw that in there, because it must be difficult if you're looking for people to sort of help you in this kind of field. It must be quite difficult for people to sort of know who's good and who's not so good, and who they might fit with and so on, I guess. And so I just wanted to throw that in there, that I am profoundly grateful for the ways you've helped me, which have been profoundly life-changing. On that note, so is there anything else you want to add before
No, I think I've spoken quite a lot today, actually. So no, that's fine. It's all there on my website, and there's some reviews on Google as well if somebody would like to.
Yeah, Yeah, and all these reviews on Google say pretty much what I've said. So
Yes.
so that's good. Okay. So yeah, that all remains then is for me to say thank you so much, Karolyn Mahony. And if people want to get in touch with you, riversidehealing.co.uk. And we'll speak again soon. I'll stop recording, but I'll keep chatting to you afterwards. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you very much, Gerard, and lovely to see you as always.
Thank you.